You ever wondered why someone suddenly stops texting, calling, or reaching out after a conflict? It's easy to assume they simply don't care. But for avoidant individuals, silence is rarely about indifference. Instead, it's a complex emotional response rooted in shame, guilt, and fear. Today, we'll explore the hidden psychology behind an avoidant person's silence, revealing why their withdrawal often means much more than meets the eye. Let's begin by looking at what really drives this quiet distance. When an avoidant person disappears after causing pain, it's often misinterpreted as a lack of care. In truth, their silence is filled with overwhelming shame and internal conflict. They may feel guilty for the hurt they've caused and fear that reaching out will only make things worse or be unwelcome. This emotional storm inside them leads to withdrawal not because they don't care, but because they're struggling with their own feelings of responsibility and regret. Guilt creates a painful paradox for avoidant individuals. On one hand, they long for reconnection and wish to repair the relationship. On the other, they're painfully aware that they've caused hurt, which makes them hesitant to reach out. This internal tug-of-war often leads to more silence, unintentionally deepening the wound and making them appear heartless. The more they want to fix things, the more they pull away, trapped by their own conflicting emotions. Avoidant people are often fully aware of how their withdrawal and emotional unavailability have affected someone who cared for them. This recognition triggers intense self-loathing and a psychological shutdown. They may believe they've lost the right to contact you, leading to kind of emotional paralysis. It's not that they don't feel anything, it's that their shame is so overwhelming, it stops them from taking any action at all. One major reason avoidant individuals stay silent is the fear that any apology will be seen as manipulative or selfish. They worry that reaching out might look like a tactic to ease their own guilt, or that their words will be dismissed as empty promises. Worse, they fear their presence could be a disrespectful intrusion on your healing process. This anxiety keeps them from saying anything at all, even when they desperately want to make amends. Cope with their discomfort, avoidant people often convince themselves that staying silent is the most ethical thing to do. They rationalize that reaching out might reopen old wounds or give false hope, so keeping their distance is a form of care. This belief helps protect them emotionally, even though it's only partly true. In their minds, silence becomes a way to avoid causing further harm, even if it means leaving things unresolved. For many avoidant individuals, the fear of hurting you again outweighs their fear of losing you. They worry that any contact might revive your hope, prolong your attachment, or repeat the same painful cycle. This fear keeps them at a distance, even when they miss you or regret their actions. Their silence is a misguided attempt to protect both you and themselves from further pain. Inside every avoidant person is a daily battle between pride and longing. Pride tells them that reaching out would be a sign of weakness, while longing urges them to fix what's broken and reconnect. This internal war keeps them stuck in silence. They may draft messages or rehearse conversations in their minds, but nothing ever feels safe or good enough to send. The result is ongoing emotional turmoil and inaction. It's important to understand that an avoidant person's silence is not a sign of emotional emptiness. In fact, it's often the opposite. Their silence is a result of intense feelings, shame, guilt, fear, and longing all tangled together. What they lack is not emotion, but the courage to face those feelings and risk vulnerability. Their quiet is a shield, not an absence of care. Avoidant behavior often becomes a cycle. The more they withdraw, the more guilt and shame they feel, which leads to even more avoidance. This cycle can be hard to break, especially when every attempt to reach out feels risky or doomed to fail. Understanding this pattern can help us see that their silence is not a simple choice, but a deeply ingrained coping mechanism. From the outside, it's easy to misread an avoidant person's silence as coldness or lack of care. But when we look deeper, we see a person struggling with powerful emotions and a fear of making things worse. Recognizing the difference between indifference and emotional paralysis can change how we interpret their actions and perhaps even how we respond. While silence may feel safer for the avoidant person, it comes at a cost. Relationships suffer, misunderstandings grow, and both sides experience pain. The avoidant individual may feel isolated and misunderstood while the other person feels abandoned. This mutual hurt is often the unintended consequence of trying to avoid further harm. Breaking the cycle of avoidance isn't easy. It requires self-awareness, courage, and sometimes professional help. For avoidant individuals, learning to tolerate uncomfortable emotions and risk vulnerability is a gradual process. For those on the receiving end, understanding the psychology behind the silence can bring some peace and clarity, even if it doesn't erase the pain. If you're dealing with an avoidant person's silence, remember that their withdrawal is not about you. It's a reflection of their own struggles. Give them space, but also take care of your own emotional needs. Setting boundaries and seeking support can help you navigate the uncertainty and protect your well-being. Healing from the pain of avoidant silence takes time for both sides. For the avoidant person, it means facing their fears and learning new ways to connect. For those affected, it means finding closure and self-compassion. By understanding the psychology behind the silence, we can move forward with greater empathy and hope for healthier relationships in the future.